It is in the minds of men that the bastion of peace should be constructed. Now, of course, wars continue. Over the past 10 years, over 40 countries have suffered from armed conflict. But what we're here today to talk about is not so much wars as the wars we know it, armed conflict. But we're here to talk about what I call the battle of the mind. It's a war that continues in the mind. It's a conflict that continues in the mind. And this is what media and information literacy seeks to address. How can we fix the conflict going on in the mind, the decisions we need to take, the information we need to take, the decisions that will affect our personal, political, social, and cultural lives. We're living in a virtual and electronic world. Today, citizens' engagement has never been more important. But with the explosion of technology, what we have known as citizen engagement is changing. We need to rethink what citizen engagement is all about. And media and information literacy can help us to rethink citizens' engagement. I'm sure that many of you are living in this virtual world. I'm not seeing a lot of young people here, but what is really happening is that we, both adults and young people, is that we're living both in a physical world but also in a virtual world. There are parallel systems running. There are parallel education systems. There's a physical education system. There's a classroom as we know it. But there's also a virtual education system that our young people and adults are engaged in. And so what we need to do is to build a bridge between the virtual world and the physical world. And media and information literacy can help to build that bridge. What UNESCO is advocating is for us to make media and information literacy an engaging civic education movement. And I like this quote from New London Group because they put it so aptly. When they say, if it were possible to define generally the mission of education, it could be said that its fundamental purpose is to ensure that students or citizens benefit from learning in ways that allow them to participate fully in public, community, economic life. And I want to emphasize participate fully in public, community, and economic life, because this is what media and information literacy is all about. This is a vision towards an engaging civic education movement. Now, there's been a lot of debates about media and information literacy, and you heard some of it from Professor Tyler earlier. But for us to move from pockets of successes to national programs, we need an harmonized approach. And I'll share a little bit about how UNESCO is pushing that harmonized approach. Now, what is media and information literacy? I think we have many experts here. These are two traditionally separate fields, information literacy and media literacy. For UNESCO, we have moved away from that attempting definitions because it's so difficult sometimes to get everything in one definition, and there's so many definitions saying so many things. And so we have been focusing on key learning outcomes, all right? Or key learning outcomes of media and information literacy. For information literacy, the debate is not so much. There's less debate on information literacy in terms of the learning outcomes for information literacy. There's a lot more debate for media literacy. And for UNESCO, we have introduced one aspect to the debate where that media literacy is not only about critical analyzing media content, but we must start by understanding the roles and functions of media in democratic societies and in culture and in development. We must understand the role of media as a watchdog. We must understand the importance of freedom of expression and the need to have proper media laws. So we have introduced another layer of competencies before we get to the critical analyzing of media content. Now, there are different perspectives on these two overlapping fields, two converging fields. Those from the information literacy field, they believe that information literacy is a larger field and media literacy is just a part of information literacy. Of course, there's the converse. Those from the media literacy field, they believe that media literacy is a larger field and information literacy is a part of media literacy. There are those, believe it or not, there are those experts who believe that they're not equal, that these are different fields. It's difficult for me to see that in a converging world that we can see media and information literacy as separate fields. There are those who recognize that there's an intersection between media literacy and information literacy. But for UNESCO, what we are proposing is that we take the union of these two fields of media and information literacy, that we see it as a combined set of competencies, knowledge, skills, and attitude necessary for the 21st century. So we're taking all the competencies of ML and IL, and we're bringing them together. And for us, media literacy plus information literacy equals media and information literacy. Now, there's so many different literacies. And this has been a part of the problem. I was speaking earlier to Manuel Pinto about keep restarting the dialogue and debates about media and information literacy. We're almost 40 years, and we're still not where we're supposed to be. And a part of it has been because there's so many literacies. Media literacy, information literacy, library literacy, digital literacy, computer literacy, internet literacy, social network literacy. There's so many literacies. And it could continue, all right? It will continue. UNESCO, we're arguing that this creates confusion for the policymakers. This creates confusion in the classroom. And we are trying to harmonize all these into a composite concept called media and information literacy. And we think that this approach is important for two reasons. It's forward-looking because it harmonizes the field of media and information literacy. And two, that there's so much convergence. There's so much convergence that now I can take my mobile phone and I can access a digital library, I can watch television, I can listen to radio. All right, so we have common delivery platforms, we have common access devices, and so now we cannot treat these fields as separate. But more importantly, as we move towards integrating media information literacy in the formal education system, it is difficult for us to go to the educated and say, here's a curriculum for media literacy, here's one for information literacy, here's one for digital literacy. What educators are going to say to us, please leave us alone, we already have too much work to do. But if we go to them with one package, media and information literacy, then perhaps they will listen to us. And so a group of experts who are working on a draft policy guidelines for UNESCO came up with this model, where we say that media and information literacy is in the center, or media, libraries, archives, museums, all the tools that we use for information sharing is in the middle. And the competencies first involve the purposes for which people use media and information, for entertainment, for problem solving, for research, for decision making, for intercultural dialogue. Then we have the second layer, which is understanding as competencies, understanding the roles and functions of media, understanding ethics of information storage and use, and professional standards of media and information. The next layer we have is the process. These are the skills that we need to develop. The critical analyzing and evaluating media contents, the use of ICTs, engaging with media and other information providers for self-expression. And for us, ICTs or digital skills are cross-cutting to the entire process. This is an harmonized approach that UNESCO is proposing so that we can make the field clearer to policymakers and to educators. So what we have are two pillars. We have the media literacy actors, the journalists, the communicators, the communication experts, the media experts. Then we have also the information literacy actors, the library specialists, the information specialists, the archivists. And what UNESCO is proposing is that what is needed is the common foundation, MIL, common purposes. These two pillars can come together and can work together to create greater change in education system. We need a common foundation, and we also need a common connecting pillar for media literacy and information literacy actors, and we have common objectives. So this is the approach that UNESCO is proposing for greater impact and for us to move from pockets of success to national programs. Our strategy is to first focus on teachers. We need to develop media and information literate teachers. We don't think that we should make the mistake that was made with ICTs in education when we rushed to put technology in the classroom, but we fail to make the teachers competent to use these tools. And so we say first we need to, what's happening here? Okay, so we're saying the step is for media and information literate teachers, to media and information literate students, and then to media and information literate societies. Now for the third pillar of the process is to have a common curriculum. What I've described before forms the basis of the media and information literacy curriculum that was developed by UNESCO. The curriculum is based on 3 broad themes: knowledge and understanding of media and information discourse, evaluation of media content, and production and use of media and information. Each module is divided into 4 different parts: the core subject, the core learning objectives, core competencies, and the pedagogical and assessment approaches. There are 10 modules, and you can see them there. I'll not go through all of them. But we have 10 modules in the curriculum, and 11 modules in the curriculum. We have divided the modules into core and non-core modules. This curriculum has now been translated, or is being translated in 10 different languages, included several languages from Europe: French, Spanish. The Portuguese version was launched recently. The Russian version is was also launched recently, and it's also being translated in Armenian and into Greek. Now for the fourth aspect of moving from pockets of successes to national program is that we need to have media and information literacy policies and strategies. We heard from Professor Tyler earlier that it's important to make clear what is the development framework for media and information literacy. And we need to link that development framework to policy formulation, but we cannot stop there, because many times we have policies, but the policies sit on a shelf. Why? Because we do not give action, we do not give legs to these policies, so we need to also develop strategies. I want to bring us back to a little bit of the basics, because as we theorize and conceptualize about media and information literacy, sometimes we forget about the very basics of what media and information literacy is about. I think we're familiar with this continuum from data to wisdom. That data that is processed gives us information that after you have analyzed and understand the information, you have knowledge. When you apply the knowledge, you have wisdom. Now, the step from moving from knowledge to wisdom is very important, because a doctor who knows all about the impact of tobacco and cancer, but still smokes a pack of cigarettes a day, is not wise. The same thing applies to what we're doing for media and information literacy. What we're saying, we have the knowledge from research. We have the wealth of research showing the impact of media and information literacy on personal, economic, social, and political life. But are we applying the knowledge that we have to get to the point of wisdom? Are we applying this knowledge to develop policies that is necessary to move us from pockets of successes to national program? You might see there's some question marks there from wisdom, because perhaps we can go further. And some experts may argue that maybe after you apply wisdom, then you perhaps get the innovation, or some might say after you apply wisdom, maybe you'll meet God. But I want us to focus on moving from knowledge to wisdom, because it's this wisdom that is going to help us to bring about change, the change that is necessary in policies. We are not going to achieve media and information literacy as a mass engaging civic education movement without policies, without national policies. The informal sector is important, and we should continue to do that. The two are not mutually exclusive. But if we want to ensure that every citizen becomes media and information literacy, we need to have policies, that we need to apply wisdom. We need to have a vision. What's our vision for young people in our society? We need to create consensus, and this meeting is a start to create consensus. The informal group on media literacy, and I hope they'll consider to make it media information literacy. But there needs to be national consensus. We need to bring all the stakeholders together to argue and to defend the need for change in policy. And of course, moving rapidly forward, we need to look at policy direction, resources, and action plan. I want us to touch quickly before I close on what should be the underlying principles of policies. You have heard me talk a lot about convergence, but it's not just convergence from a theoretical perspective, but it's a convergence also from a practical perspective. Because in many countries, what you have sometimes is the Ministry of Communication or Ministry of Media that is not working very well with the Ministry of Information. All right? Many times we have traveled across the world, and I'll go to a Ministry of Media and Information. Listen to me clearly. Ministry of Media and Information, and they have media literacy activities on one side and information literacy activities on the other side. But there's no meeting of the two. And resources are being lost there. The impact is being lost, and so convergence is not just about theoretical approach, but also a practical approach. The second underlying principle for policies from a UNESCO perspective is the rights-based approach. And by the rights-based approach, we're not talking just about the theoretical positioning of media and information literacy. What we're talking about is a practical approach, a practical strategy to move from pocket of success to national programs. What we're talking about is identifying the rights holders and the duty bearers where media and information literacy is concerned, and to develop programs, policies and programs to allow the rights holders to do what they're, to demand demand competencies in media and information literacy, and the duty bearers to carry the actions, to do what they need to do, to enact the correct policies and strategies so that the right holders can benefit from media and information literacy. We need to shift from focus only on protectionism to empowerment. We know that when media information literacy, and particularly media literacy, was born, it was all about protectionism. It's about the concept that media are bad, and you need to protect citizens from media. But much of that is changing, and we're in a world now where the everywhereness of media, and technologies, we cannot escape media and technologies. This everywhereness means that we need to empower our citizens, because we cannot protect them for all their life. At some point, they will be in the world, and we can protect them even more. But if we give them empowerment skills, then they'll be better able to use media and information literacy competencies. 4 is knowledge societies. We know the principles of knowledge society: quality education, freedom of expression, access to information, and multiculturalism. And we believe that these should be underlying principles for MIL policies and strategy. We need to also take into consideration cultural and linguistic approach, and finally, a gender-based approach, which is very important to UNESCO's work, where gender equality right now accounts for more than 2/3 of inequalities around the world. And we feel that as we drive policies on media and information literacies and strategies, that we need to ensure that we have gender balance and gender equality in our approach. I want to highlight a diagram on protectionism and empowerment a little bit more, because this is important. And as you can see, the scale is tipped in favor of empowerment. We're not saying that protectionism should be thrown out. It's still important, particularly for children, for those underage. All right? And so UNESCO also, we have promoted the Convention on the Rights of the Child. And we're saying children still need to be protected, but we're saying that the two are not mutually exclusive, and the scale should tip in the favor of empowerment. Now, to develop MIL policies, we're not starting with a tabula rasa. We're not starting from scratch. We already have ICT policies in most countries. We have media policies. We have information policies, and we have education policies. All of this means that a node is missing is media and information literacy policies, and we need to integrate all of these. My final point as I close is the importance of us standing together. I showed you earlier the 2 pillars and the need for a common foundation and a common connecting beam, so that the media literacy actors and information literacy actors can come together. But we need to stand together. We need to stand together to make the change happen. We need to stand together to make media and information literacy a civic, mass civic education movement. For UNESCO, what we're trying to do, and recently we have developed this concept and working with stakeholders, many of whom are in the room today, to launch a global alliance for partnerships on media and information literacy. We're bringing together all the stakeholders from all over the world, all the Media Literacy Association, the Information Literacy Association, the Digital Literacy stakeholders, and we're bringing them together for three purposes. One, to articulate concrete partnerships to drive MIL development and, globally. Two, to speak as one voice, particularly it relates to policies. If we're speaking as one voice, then we can have more impact. If we're speaking with one voice, then we do not have to be reinventing the wheel after every 10 years. If we're speaking at one voice, when there is the Global Congress of Global Congress of Education, we should have representatives from the media and information literacy community going to this Global Congress of Education to speak about the importance of media and information literacy in education. And finally, the Alliance is intended to deepen the strategy for MIL to be treated as a composite concept. So this Alliance will be launched in Nigeria at the end of June. We have done a lot of work already in this field. I don't have much time to tell you about it, but maybe in the exchange we can talk about it. But it's going to be launched in June. And what we're encouraging, and we're already in dialogue with a number of stakeholders from different parts of the world, to launch regional alliances on media and information literacy. I want to stop here and show you to end my presentation with a 3-minute video on UNESCO's work. In closing, I'm sure we'll all agree that MIL is about people, about empowering citizens with skills to actively participate in development and good governance, peace, intercultural dialogue, and democracy. It's about a young girl who wants to find out why she's not accepted by her classmates. It's about a young boy who is searching for his identity. It's about a woman who cries out for equality and empowerment. It's about a man or a woman who desires to freely express his or her religious beliefs or culture. It's about a family that cries out, why do we not have enough food to eat? It's about a woman or a man who cries out, why did I not have the basic information that I need, which could help me not to contract HIV/AIDS? An old sick woman or a man crying out, why have I been abandoned? It's about a community crying out for real development. It's about a nation or a race crying out for freedom and freedom of expressions. My friends, thank you for listening. This is the mission of UNESCO. And as UNESCO is owned by our member states, and you, present here and those listening on the internet, is also your mission. MIL can help to unlock the minds, and you have a role to play. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. Foi uma apresentação muito interessante, cobriu de facto bastante abrangente. E vamos agora dar a palavra a Eveline Bevor, que nos fará uma apresentação sobre 30 anos de transformação na educação para os média dos cidadãos. Eveline, shall we start? Thank you.
What's happening here? Alors. Ah. I'd like to close your presentation. Why doesn't it want? It doesn't work. Okay. Put so many things. I'm going to finish with the same thing. Okay. Yeah. Mine is yours.
Okay.
Thanks. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's all right.
Wait a minute. This.
F5.
Wait a minute. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to speak. I was supposed to speak about Clemy's position about media education or media literacy. Of course, I'm going to do it because I'm going to speak from the Clemy's point of view, of course, but maybe with a broader idea. That's why the title of my presentation is New Context for Old Questions. The title of the conference in general is Literacy, Media, and Citizenship. Of course, the three words are for three important concepts. Of course, we can propose couples with the word literacy and media as a main question for all of us. The question very, very old about media literacy or literacy through or by media. Second couple, literacy and citizenship. That's also even more, of course, an ancient democratic struggle, and with the quotation from Victor Hugo, which is a lot of time used in France, is every school that is open closes one more prison. Could be considered as an utopia, of course, but for a part, it's really, really important. Media and citizenship, as we all know, recover a lot of researchers with very different conclusions. and results according to the different media. We are not going back to all these conclusions and researchers, but it's really important to consider this and have them in mind. Third proposition, literacy, media, and citizenship is really now an important aspect of media education, of course, and mostly when it is supported by the programs like CLEMI, of course, involving news media, all news medias, and stressing upon public debate participation. For us, CLEMI, it's very important to tightly link both sides of the position of the citizen as a receiver and as producer. It's very, very important, and from the very beginning. For us, it's also linked to a main concept and proposition to develop the faculty of thinking, to think about what we are doing when we are doing it, what it means, what kind of consequences our acts could generate, etc. So that's the main context for actions in CLEMI programs. The most subversive people are those who ask questions. Why this sentence is because it has been from the very beginning a part of our media education activities to enforce the capacity to ask questions, especially for young people. Say them, please ask questions about what's going on, about what media present as a reality or as a point of view, etc. Develop questions. Try to find answers, different answers, pluralistic answers to these questions. It's really a basis of the activity. So media education has been thought as, of course, an essential means to develop or foster citizenship. It's part of the official text which has created CLEMI. It's part of the text. It says that it's a center to develop media education in a context of citizenship education, to foster pluralism, freedom of expression, and capacity of self-express in the society. So it's for us very, very important to stress upon these aspects. And the idea is to enable young people from the very beginning of their scholarship, even very young children, to enable them to become creative and critical actors. And of course, in the media and information society, where they live, where we all live. And as you can imagine, this point has exploded the last years, of course. The main axis is critical thinking. Critical thinking, all the programs involved in media education propose critical thinking as a main means to read the media, to write the media, to interpret the media, etc. Of course, we work a lot with news media, of course, but not only, because as we know today, information and the news are not only in news media, they are in a lot of different media at the moment. Of course, professional ones, but also in social media, in social networks, and so that's why it's so important. It's so important today to work with a very large range of media and not only the news ones. And as I already told, it's very important also to link tightly reception and production. It's now, as we know, in this 21st century, a big part of citizens' activities to produce. Is it news? Is it information? It's very difficult to qualify the media production, especially within the social media. But it's some contents vehiculated through social media, transferred from one people to another, and is had to be taken into consideration. So that's a big part, and we try to work, and that's what we are going to see, to work a lot about these productions. Why 30 years of changes? For two different things, as Alton showed us. A lot of things began in 1982 with the Grunwald Declaration on Media Education, of course, and it was 31 years ago. And 30 years ago, that's why I chose, of course, this figure. CLEMI was created by the Minister of Education in France as a proposition to develop media education. And 30 years after, we have to struggle more and more. That's what we are seeing with Mark Reed just before. All media educators, that's a common thing for all of us. We have to struggle all the time about media education, about our objectives, about the ways we want it to be developed, etc. So I think it's part of media education to struggle, to think, to change, to move, etc. It's really, that's what we saw during 30 years, it's really a moving concept. It never, that's why it's so interesting, in fact. It never stops moving, changing, because, as we all know, education is changing, media are changing, the society itself is changing, etc. So we have always to reconsider the actions we have to develop, we have to propose about media education all the time. And that's why also media educators are so linked to awareness. We spend a lot of time with the surveys to look at what's happening with young children, with the media, with citizenship, etc. So it's for us very important to consider all these changes at the same time, to propose all the time the good ways to propose media literacy to young people and the other ones too, of course. So in 30 years, I'm going to go fast. Of course, internet revolution. Digital convergence of news media is really a very, very important aspect of the questions. We have to face up with this aspect. When we propose media education, we have to work about all of these points, because it's at the same time technological, professional, economical, social, political. Of course, at the same time, all these aspects are very, very important today. And of course, industrial aspects are very important. We know, we can see that all these points are changing a lot, with a lot of strong consequences. And as media educators, we have to take all these points into consideration when we propose activities, programs, etc. That's what's called, of course, media morphosis. And I like the word, that's why I chose it. And of course, we can consider technical convergence, of course, of growing number of functions in one device as a position of mobile phone. The question of journalism is a big question for us working about and with news media, and more generally all the professionals working in this field. The development of user-generated contents of all kinds of news circulating via the media, the social media, etc. It's very important to take these points in consideration. These changes are very important because they are linked to the opinion, to the presentations all the citizens have today about everything, not only the political and the civic field. No, it's about all the everything, all kinds of interest for them. So, an important point. Last point of these changes is what's called also migratory behavior of media audiences. As Alton said, I could speak also of composite. Media at the moment, media audiences used to compose their own program with different media. Each of us here, we are used to read this kind of newspaper, listen to this program on radio, look at this program on TV, go to the social networks, etc., etc. And it's an important point to consider each people as combiners of different kinds of media and programs. That's why it's not so easy to cut strongly between traditional media and digital media today, as a lot of people would like to, because we are confronted to the question of people saying, no, there's no more media, it's only digital media literacy. As we know, it's something much more complex and difficult to afford. Just an example, if we have a look, it's just 1 year old. Average time spent per day with major media by youth adults. We can see just on this schema that TV and video go first, then the internet, etc. And we can see also that it's a specific combination of all kinds of media. So that's why it's so important to always work, when we work about media education, always work thinking of all kinds of media and the different personal combination of this media. Of course, these changes are considered with double point of view. For some people and for media educators, it's considered as a negative development. For the other ones, it's the contrary, positive. We have to examine both sides. And first thing, main question for all of us, the question of the sources, which is so important about when we work about opinion representations, etc. The difficulty of for sourcing today, all kinds of data, all kinds of informations we receive from different media or sources. It's really an important question. Second point, the opinion expressed in the social media, it's linked, of course, is quite difficult for a lot of people. Of course, when you are a media literate people, you try to, of course, to identify, to choose, to just to keep links with some blogs or with some sites you like. You know, you are going to find interesting resources, but it's not the case of all the people using social media, as we all know. And it's really an important point to stress upon it. The growing individualism in media uses is often evoked as a big problem by some authors like Putnam, or who consider that for civic activities it's very important to develop social activities. And media are considered most of the time as putting people alone facing their screens, their different screens. It's not so, of course, it's not so true, of course. And it can be true for some people, it's always the case, but mostly it's not true. And at the same time, as we saw, the first media for the people remains the TV. It can be considered as very curious. TV, of course, on different screens. We have to add the different, but it's always TV. And so it's most of the time a collective and even a familial habit. And second answer is that individual consumers used to interact with other ones. And it's also at the social level, and they use really a very large range of media platforms. So it's not so true to think that it is individualistic media users. Of course, positive thing is that new experience, new forms of media and content are very important to connect socially. Not only, that's interesting because it doesn't connect only with other consumers, but also with producers, media producers. And it's something quite new and really interesting to propose new forms of media more linked to consumers' preoccupation and desires. To be surprised by others, that's something to express points of view and to be surprised by others and discover other approaches, that's an important point. We constate that too many people are used to go to read the same blogs, to the same sites, etc., to stay in the same community. That's a problem because if we want to develop media literacy linked to real citizenship, we need all of us to be to discover other people, other points of view, other ways of thinking, because it's supposed you can only discover something new if you go out from your community. You have to live it and go out to see something different. So it's something we used to say to the young people in schools we work with about media education. It says, please read newspaper you never read. Go and look at TV channels you never watch. Go and try to find new websites, new blogs, etc., to read different points of view. And I think it's something very important we have to stress upon if we want to develop media literacy really linked to citizenship.
Evelyn, I apologize. Maybe more 2 or 3 minutes?
Yeah, I'm going to go. You can read it. Just a question for us very important about literacy within information and knowledge society is this sentence from André Jordan about school. What school is supposed to do? And of course, with media and information literacy support, is I like this sentence. School should teach how to become an autodidact. And I think at the moment it's a very important challenge because as we saw, so many data, so many information are spread all around that we need to know how to do with that, how to work with that, how to achieve, how to restore, etc. And of course, the new generation, so-called C generation, for connection, community creation, and curation. I think it's important to keep the word curation because in media education we have now, and it's also linked to the sentence evoked by Kathleen about the people who spread a lot of contents and the other ones who take all the benefits. And I think it's very important now for media literate people to be able to organize good content curation because it's, I think, a new competence within media and information literacy. We don't have to forget, for me it's very important, the economical dimension. Media education now needs a very, very strong part about the economical dimension of the information society. because a citizen is also and always a consumer, and it's so important to think, to decide. The question is to decide, knowing what we are doing, what kind of thing we want to consume, what kind of media we are going to choose, and why, and what are the consequences of these choices. Just one example about YouTube, for example. As we know, last week there was a big conference about YouTube, and you know this video called Gangnam Style, viewed so many times by everybody everywhere. It is now an argument for YouTube to go and see the advertisers and say, you know, so how many people are viewing what we are proposing, and you need now to give us all the advertisings, and because they want to seduce advertisers. And it's a big problem, because if YouTube take all the money from the advertisers, all the TV producers, the people who are creative, who are producing new kinds of pictures, but also all kinds of pictures, are going to be put off this market, and it's a very important goal. So I just leave about this point, because it's to show how everything we are doing about media consumption can have very, very important consequences we don't think about when we look, of course, at Gangnam Style. We don't think that after it will be an argument for YouTube to take all the money from the advertiser. And it's a real problem. Okay, consumer citizen, the question of obsolescence. It's also a real question, because there is, of course, digital obsolescence, but technical obsolescence, as we know, companies never stop creating demands for new products, and it's a real problem. Another question about obsolescence is the media forms obsolescence. It's a question for media educators too, because as we know, a new social network is appearing every 3 years. And there was a survey last week, and I kept the title of the article, Teens Like for Facebook on Decline. And it means, of course, there is Twitter, but it will be a new one, then a new one, etc., etc. And as media educators, we have to think about all this changing, appearing very fast, and changing faster and faster. So it requires a strong awareness and adaptability, of course. But the question of adaptability is not that we have to adopt each new form appearing on the market and on the media landscape, but we have every time to think about it, to evaluate, appreciate if it is useful, if it is interesting or not. We don't have to run after each form appearing in the media landscape. We have to choose, to decide, to evaluate. And I think it's very important to explain to the young people that they have to take decisions. If you are a media literate person, you have to take decisions all the time. You have to think all the time about what you are doing when you are reading this article, etc., or looking at these pictures, etc. It's a main important. So digital media, new form of citizenship. As you all know here, I'm sure there are big discussions about what's appearing with digital media in front of citizenship. You know, the text, the proposition of Ethan Zuckerman with the 2 levels of civic engagement, but also the appearance of era of that's so named, so called. And I think it's important, requiring new attitudes, new behaviors. Okay, I'm going to stop because I'd like the audience to have time to. So I finished with that. And now I think media literacy requires even more complex ability than before. it's of course linked to all the forms of media, new forms, but also traditional forms of media and citizenship. And this necessity of a continuous, of permanent awareness, I think it's a very important point. The important points too is to develop empowerment for us. When Alton was speaking about safety, it's a real question not to stress too much upon safety. We have to stretch much more upon empowerment, I think, and the capacity of being responsible. I think it's the main word today about media literacy. How to teach, how to, to teach about the capacity of being responsible, of deciding, of taking decisions, knowing what we are doing, thinking what we are doing. So we can consider first that media literacy, media and information literacy are now the new civic learning today for the 21st century. And just, I finish with a sentence from Grenfell Declaration, a little bit like Alton's, that's funny. And 30 years ago, when UNESCO experts proposed to develop media education in all the country, the words they used are very important to read today. Media, we can consider media as instruments for the citizens' active participation in society. Political and educational systems need to recognize their obligations to promote in their citizens a critical understanding of the phenomena of communication. So let's hope it will be heard.
Thank you very much. And I must apologize. I think I'm so stressed with the time that I think I forgot to introduce Evelyn in the start. So, Evelyn é a diretora delegada do CLEMI, que é o Centro de Ligação de Educação e Média do Ministério da Cultura francês. Portanto, é um centro dedicado à educação para os média. Já ultrapassamos o nosso tempo, de qualquer forma, vamos permitir 2 ou 3 questões. Vou pedir que sejam muito breves e também, depois, as respostas também muito breves, apesar de tudo, para não termos um atraso demasiado grande. Se tivermos questões, 2 ou 3?
Gostava de... bom, não sei se há outras questões, mas de qualquer maneira há uma questão que eu gostava de colocar à Evelyn. Falou na obsolescência, falou na obsolescência dos mídia. Realmente há um certo cansaço em relação às redes sociais digitais. Muitas vezes confundimos redes sociais com redes sociais digitais. Também há redes sociais pré-digitais. Mas pronto... há um cansaço relativamente ao Facebook, ao Twitter, etc. O Twitter talvez um pouco menos. E a minha questão, para ir direto ao assunto, é esta. No momento em que o Google, portanto, está a tentar implementar um search engine ligado ao conhecimento, portanto, a minha pergunta é esta. Como é que nós podemos ligar a literacia à Web3, à web semântica? Porque realmente hoje em dia nós não estamos numa sociedade da informação, nem provavelmente numa sociedade em rede, mas muito mais numa sociedade do conhecimento. Eu próprio penso que estamos numa sociedade de pesquisa, uma sociedade de investigação, porque hoje em dia, quando pensamos em search, todo o cidadão comum pode fazer uma common research, uma investigação comum, ordinária, e é com isso que ele, de certa maneira, vai desenvolver a sua literacia e a própria opinião pública local. Portanto, a minha questão, sumarizando, é esta. Qual a ligação que poderemos pensar, é uma questão ampla, larga, mas qual, no momento dessa obsolescência dos mídias, como é que nós podemos pensar os novos desafios que se avizinham com o Web3?
Muito obrigado, uma questão muito interessante. Aliás, estava a pensar que se calhar poderíamos organizar um congresso para procurar a resposta, é de facto bastante abrangente. Mas vamos mais... mas é sem dúvida uma questão... vamos tentar responder a 2 ou 3 questões em conjunto. Portanto, temos mais questões?
Sim. Boa tarde a todos. Não tenho questão, basicamente queria só... Meu nome é Dinka Mourinho, estou aqui a representar uma associação de jovens, chama-se Boefis. Tenho estado a trabalhar muito na área de média como uma ferramenta de educação, na qual usamos a rádio, também revista e redes sociais, no sentido de educar os jovens para a questão do VIH-Sida. Portanto, é um projeto inovador que no ano passado esteve nomeado para um prémio internacional que é para o uso das novas tecnologias, que é para a inclusão de imigrantes e refugiados. Para mais informações, bastam visitar o nosso site boefis.org e, obviamente, durante o Congresso terei toda a disponibilidade em partilhar mais esse projeto inovador que trabalha com jovens dos países africanos de língua portuguesa cá em Portugal. Obrigado. Boa tarde.
Muito obrigado. Mais uma questão?
Bom dia. Eu queria perguntar qual é a perspectiva que existe quando se fala em Media e Information Literacy em relação a outros conceitos que existem e estão amplamente divulgados, como, por exemplo, multiliteracia ou transliteracia, e que também são igualmente utilizados. Gostava também, se na última autora da última apresentação pudesse dar-nos alguma indicação sobre o estado da arte em França, que gostava de conhecer um pouco.
Muito obrigado. Também são questões muito interessantes. Evelyn, maybe we could start by you.
Your question is a very large one, because of course media education has to consider all these questions about Google and the changes that they promise now, but it's impossible to give an answer today. The only answer I can give you is that all media educators are aware of what's happening, are trying to follow the different choices of Google, but at the same time you can be sure also that as media educators we are going to propose ways of considering this Google evolution and what it means, exactly what it means for the people, for the communities, etc. So it's really impossible to give you an answer today, of course. But the only answer I can give you is that all media educators are aware of what's happening now and developing activities about that. That's all, of course. I'm sorry.
So, Alton, now.
I want to respond to the question about multiliteracies and transliteracies and the perspective on that. For UNESCO, if you look at the definition for multiliteracy in some cases that are being used, the concepts are very similar to what I presented about media and information literacy and bringing together the different notions of literacy. The situation with multiliteracy and transliteracy is that sometimes it goes outside of the domain of media and communication. So you start looking at cultural literacy and financial literacies and social literacy and all different types of literacy. So for UNESCO, we want to keep the focus on media and information. The other literacies are very important, but we believe that media and information literacy is a precursor, for example, to cultural literacy. that you need to have basic media and information competencies if you're going to become culturally literate or financially literate. That your quest towards becoming financially literate is recognizing, for example, that you have an information need, that you have information challenges, and these competencies are part of media and information literacy. I think they all come together, they are related, but we need focus. This is what we need, particularly for the education system. We need focus, and for UNESCO, our focus right now is on media and information literacy.
Thank you. Bom, estamos cerca de 15 minutos depois do nosso tempo. Os painelistas continuarão connosco, daí que faria o pedido para que outras questões que se mantenham, para que aproveitem os coffee breaks, os intervalos, para as colocar. Vamos fazer a pausa para o almoço e recordo que as sessões paralelas começam às 14h30, portanto,